I think we're going to be getting ourselves set. Hopefully we'll get Reese in the moment that we have that opportunity to. So we'll be looking forward to that as far as we go. But now as we descend down the hill then through into the no-named corner, they'll head over to Double Gauche, which will be the next chance out there to really claw through the corners and say, right, how is it going to be? A little slide actually back there from Brandon Bonello is going to cost the time and also cost placement as well, as they all look to try and jump on and say, right, okay, here's how we go. Team also dynamic is going to be interesting here, and so that's going to be tough to go and manage here. So 5 for VMD Intercom Sim Sport through their 5 drivers of Aaron De Battista, Dean Vella. They will have Jane Nalul, Sheldon Muscat, and Ilan Demet-Girshi as their 5. Brandon Bonello will then be for Project Aversio, along with Jake Samet and Mikhail Merchieka. And then the final 2 who are free agents then in this are Neil Gorchi and Christian Kavai, who will be turning their attention out then to how their racing action is going to set. And so for the moment, it's a case of first lap time start. Aaron De Battista then immediately looking to weave about. It is worth noting the layout that is being run today is the endurance layout. So that will be a case of, okay, that is going to be huge in terms of the understanding of where they go. And I would say, right, how will this now manage on the climb up the hill?
That is indeed the question. Can you hear me, Jake?
Loud and clear.
Oh, finally, we got that sorted. My sincere apologies for that. This is going to be a very interesting qualifying session for sure. Absolutely love Spa. There's an awful lot that you can take out of the curbs around here as well, but I think that mechanical grip is going to be the biggest factor here in this qualifying session. You know, the drivers really need to be sure that they're getting their eye in for all of these very difficult corners around this lap. It's really easy to pick up an off-track as well here.
It very much is. We are a little bit on delay here, so we're not exactly seeing all of the drivers in real time from our look, but you're getting a good look at the likes of, say, Brandon Bonello, you just saw a little bit earlier on then, having his concentration live from the World Pro Racing Arena. So he's looking at this going, okay, I want to try and pull this with everything I've got and then some, and we'll be keeping a very, very close eye on how they are all going to work. But now is going to be the case of middle sector, yeah, all having to run to the same car today, Reese. They're all in the Mercedes AMG GT3 from 2020. It's now one of the oldest cars out there in the GT3 lineup of iRacing, but what it offers is your perfect play to say, this is how you want a car to run and understand in sim racing spec. If you want to understand GT3, you drive this one first.
Yeah, they absolutely do. This is actually the car that I think I have the most mileage in the GT3 class when I'm behind the wheel. It's a fantastic car. Front engine, well, sort of mid-front engine, and rear-wheel drive, and it handles beautifully, especially around a track like Spa. But there's going to be a lot of difficulties through the middle sector, just trying to keep the weight on the fronts without overwhelming the grip of those front tyres.
Yeah, and those front tyres are going to ask for a whole heap of work out there here on this endurance layout of the circuit rather than the Grand Prix, as Aaron De Battista sets a 2:17.7 as the benchmark, about 0.8 of a second slower than his time in practice. Jane Nalul second on an 18.1, and then Jake Samet up to third on an 18.1 as Ilan Demet goes to an 18.2. Out there, no threat of rain is expected here today in sim time about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that will show you everything that you've got. 38 degrees Celsius at the moment, track temp.
Yeah, it's certainly a bit warm and toasty out there, which means it's going to be easy to overwhelm the front tyres in terms of temperature. You know, once they overheat, they do tend to lose their grip. So you need to be sure that you're you've got your brake bias dialed all the way back, not just for the best rotation, but to look after those front tires as well, because goodness knows you're going to need them when you get into the twisties here.
Yeah, and those twisties, I think, are going to be really, really important. So I am pretty sure that we're going to be setting ourselves up then for what is going to be some incredible qualifying action and then racing, which will be half an hour's worth of distance. And Reese, I think the key is going to be here, as you're looking to manage the laps, how you manage that middle sector through the likes of the Fania chicane over to Campus and out of Stavolo. I think this is a circuit that challenges you, because often you try and trim this circuit to be quick at the first and third sectors.
Yeah, indeed. Very long straights and, well, I suppose very long flat-out sections, I suppose is a better way of putting it. The run from La Source all the way up to Le Combe, and then the run out of Stavolo through Blanchimont to the chicane. In a GT3 car, it should be flat out through Blanchimont, the fast left-hander at the end of the lap. But I think with how much they would be trimming these cars out, it's going to be a little bit sketchy through there. But, you know, for a race setup, I would expect to be trimming the car out, because, you know, you can go for a bit more downforce. It'll give you the grip in the middle sector, but you'll lose out on the straights.
Absolutely, and this is going to be a show that is brought to you through some fantastic partners of ours, which include Simtech.dev, Intercom. You've seen the likes then that have been scrolling on the left-hand side, Arcafort on your screen, that are also important. And these lap times that have been oh so important here, that you can see on the left-hand side, your timing tower, and you can see with the green mark who's on a personal best lap, or who's just done a personal best lap, or who hasn't. Dean Vella to the top on a 17.4. Jake Samet just 0.04 of a second back, with Jane Nalul to third on a 17.6. It is getting busy up at the top of the times.
Certainly is, but we still haven't seen the maximum pace of these cars yet. Don't forget, the top times from practice were in the 2-minute 16s, and Dean Vella set a 2:16.79. If he can grab some slipstream on a lap, then he may stand a chance of bringing that margin even higher. Currently, about 0.04 of a second or so separating our top two, but there's every chance that that could increase.
Absolutely. There is, and we are going to be really setting ourselves up for what that is going to offer, as Brandon Bonello now gives himself a really good shot at what is going to be going through. He pilots his way through Fania and now looks to try and get the car to rotate through, and knows that already they're down to 1:15 on the clock. So they are right up in the late stages of this qualifying. Dean Vella is going to be absolutely on point. So he knows that if he wants this to work, if he wants this to be the lap that he is hoping that it's going to be, he has to absolutely, on song, on ceremony, put himself in a position where nobody else is going to be finding that chance away. Vella currently has that control, but in the final stages, it's also going to be a rush here, Reese, to get their final lap sorted.
Yeah, for sure. It's certainly going to be interesting to see who gets their final laps in here. Just 30 seconds remain on the clock, as everyone, I think, is out there and ready to start their final lap. They should be able to get it in here, this being a single race session and open qualifying as well. So let's see who gets that final lap down. It's been a bit of a long run in qualifying as well. We haven't seen any of the drivers go in and get another set of tyres on the car. So I think they're just in their prime phase at the moment. Now is the time when you need to get this lap perfect.
Yeah, and so you just got to be really, really intent on where that final lap's going to be. Checkered flag is out. Aaron De Battista back to the top on a 2:17.3. The face of calm that is there as he works hard then through the left-hand corner there, sometimes known as Speaker's Corner, but it's got no name at the moment. Vella currently second, making it VMD Intercom 1-2. Jake Samet currently in third place, looking to find improvement. Did a 17.6 on his last lap, so didn't find enough. Vella is going to be one of the last cars out there on circuit to put a lap in with Sheldon Muscat, Mikael Murcieka, Christian Kavai all be looking for their times late. But Samet at the moment, then he's just trying to keep his focus steady at the moment. Knows that he's just got to hit his marks. Chase down Jaden Alul in front of him. Aaron Debatiste out in front will be first back to the line, looking to try and jump up here with you on TVM Sport or watching with us with World Pro Racing on YouTube. Now here comes the opportunity then, working on through towards Blanchimont corner. This fearsome left-hander at 250 clicks in a straight line. It's going to be a case of, okay, right, now here comes the almighty opportunity, hitting through what is normally the final chicane, but now needing to get to last source, the hairpin, to get yourself over the mark and say, right, this is going to be where line and opportunity now present themselves. It's going to be where you're going to have to wonder, will there be improvements? Vela working himself through. Remember, they've got to drive all the way towards the endurance finish line, not the Grand Prix finish. So it's a 17-4. It's no improvement here for Aaron Debatiste. Can Jake Samet find enough then to jump up to a 17-3? He needs only a 1/10 of a second to go and break the mark, and he crossed the line on a 17-6. The tyres have cured too much. Vela over the line, 17-4 also doesn't improve, so that's going to leave him stuck on song. Ilan Dimek's time is done. Sheldon Muscat has a minor improvement that does not give him position. You saw the hands for Ilan Dimek, who's not happy with the fact that he's fifth, but Reese, Aaron Debatiste is on pole.
That he is, and what a time it is, 2:17.366. It's worth pointing out that Dean Vela at one point in the session set a 17-1, but he got an off track on that lap, so it didn't count. I mean, with the margin as close as it is here for pole, surely Vela's going to try his best to strike back when we get this 30-minute race underway. But a fantastic performance from all of our drivers to start things off.
Oh, an absolutely incredible start. And I think part of that is down to the fact that Spa is one of the most known quantities in all of motorsport. So it doesn't matter if you're a beginner. It doesn't matter if you're someone who has all the experience in the world. One of the first circuits you go to learn, Reece, and I'm sure you and I both have the same understanding, one of the first circuits that you learn is this one at Spa.
Oh yeah, it is. You know, the amount of public lobbies on Spa and Monza, you know, it's a bit of a meme in the sim racing community, isn't it? But there's a good reason for that, because this is one of the most iconic tracks on the planet. It's one that every driver knows. It's one that every driver wants to win at, and it's got such a beautiful flow to it. It's just an incredible place, and it's one that most sim racers should know every square inch of.
That they should, and I think it's going to be something where I look at this entire field and go, okay, this is more than just an individual championship. It is an individual championship. The only thing you can be is Maltese national champion by getting this sorted. But they look at this one here at Spa. They've got Imola, the Red Bull Ring, Watkins Glen, and Silverstone. I would say that is the perfect mix for what will be half an hour length races. Strong racing, difficult racing, but also racing that gives you a lot of overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, plenty of overtaking opportunity indeed, particularly into what is turn 4 on this layout at Lecombe and coming into the chicane at the end of the lap. But there's passing opportunities elsewhere around the circuit as well, into Fagné, the right-left in the second sector, coming into Stavolo as well. All opportunities where you can get a move done, but I think you would want to sit behind until the straight, because passing in the slipstream I think is going to be the easiest way to make up places.
It should be, and we should be keeping a very close eye on what that is going to mean over the course of the racing that we have. And so I'll be very much looking forward to how this is going to settle out in terms of today's running today. So we're going to be keeping ourselves in for a really strong run, and I am sure that we are going to be in for a really good chance. This show, of course, is brought to you courtesy of Gaming Malta, as well as that with Enemed, and we're going to be in for a really fun time knowing that they have brought so much help and support for what is this incredible series. So we will be keeping a very good eye on what will be brought together from these 10 drivers to set themselves on song. And Reese, I'm sure we're going to be in for a real treat. We're going to step aside for one moment here with your Malta National Sim Racing Championships for 2026. When we come back, it's race time. Race time. And so now it's going to be about who is going to stand up with half an hour's worth of racing on the clock. It's going to be a 10-car field. It's going to be about finding your element, finding your ability to jump early, and knowing that the front of the field was so aggressive. How important, Reese, is it going to be to play the slipstream game?
That is the big question, Jake. I think with only 10 cars on track for this race, it will be reasonably slim pickings after the race really gets underway. So I think priority number one off the start is making sure you're staying as close to your rivals as possible. And if you're the one punching the hole in the air for everybody else, well, you can only really do your best to stay ahead, can't you?
Yes, and so that's going to be the real key in terms of today's action. Aaron De Battista then on a 2:17.366 is the fastest driver and will go from the front on this rolling start with Dean Vella, who is no stranger to being national champion. He is alongside on that front row 2:17.4. Also a 2:17.4 was Jake Samet. He goes third with Jaden Alul in fourth place on a 17.6, and Ilan Dimek on a 17.8 is in fifth position. Sheldon Muscat then will go from sixth. A lot of experience from him with Mika Murcieka going from seventh on a 2:18 flat. Brandon Bonello has missed the start and will elect to start from pit lane in eighth place, with Christian Kavai ninth and Neil Gorchi in 10th on a 2:18.2 and a 2:20.9 for Neil Gorchi. One of the things, Reese, that's worth noting is that those who had to go through the last chance qualifier had to qualify in a BMW, so they've had to switch car very quickly.
Very true. I do think, though, there's an element of transition between the BMW and Mercedes. They're both front-engined cars. They both have reasonably similar handling characteristics, but there is still an element of difference between these cars that the drivers have had to get used to. Regardless, I think the switch-up of car for this first round of the championship is going to create a little bit more excitement.
Yeah, and so we'll be keeping ourselves ready for what will be some awesome action out there. There's a live look at the first big overtaking opportunity on the lap. Lakoum and Malmedy, the highest section on the circuit. So that's going to be where we're going to be finding some amazing running coming. But it's going to be all about who can get themselves exactly what they need. Aaron De Battista knows that he's desperately trying to warm these tyres up, get them in an operating window early. 5 VMD Intercom cars in your top 6. Only Jake Samet breaks the train there in the white and blue for Project Aversio. The Porsche is in. They're waiting for the drop of the green flag to go. The drop of the green does go, and we get ourselves underway for racing action. What a lovely launch from Mika Murcieka back there on the third row. He was perfect. They go side by side up through Eau Rouge and Radion to start this off, and Dean Vella has not lifted off at all. Aaron De Battista now is going to have to watch out, because this is going to be a drag race. Samet in third, Dimek fourth. A little under pressure from Murcieka with Sheldon Muscat trying to get into play. Up into Lakoum. They will go for the first time. De Battista on the inside covers the mark.
You notice that Aaron De Battista was weaving to warm those tyres an awful lot, even past the call of the green flag. So I think everyone else is caught out by that as there's movement further back. It looks like we have almost 3 wide for fourth position. Ilan Girji is going to get by Jaden Elul, but that is going to be a quick change between them. Elul is back past. Our top 3 are breaking away. That's what happens when you run side by side on lap 1. You just lose out.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And so that's going to be a case of you have to work together in that certain range. Top two clear, and Samet's the one who's going to have to do the chasing. Then behind, you got Alul, Dimek, you got Merchieka, Muscat, and then Christian Kavai, who's had a very nice start. Brandon Bonello has run into issues and has not gone off of the start of this race. So I think he realizes he is not scoring wide and in the gravel there through Campus Corner for Dean Vella. That's going to drop him back then in terms of time and point. So that's going to mean for him, he's going to have a little bit of a nightmare now to keep himself going on here, because Aaron De Battista knows that he's got the gap now at the front that he's been clamoring for.
Yeah, certainly. This is looking really good for Aaron De Battista right now, but it looks like there's a battle building now for fourth spot again. Jaden Elul is managing to keep his teammate of Ilan Gerti right behind him, but you could see how they were closing up in the slipstream. Again, super important here at Spa-Francorchamps, but I think what's even more important right now is getting that exit right out of La Source. Movement a bit further back here. Gocci, who, as we said, was starting a bit further back, he's starting to look at trying to make some moves. He was very aggressive on the way into La Source there. It looks like it hasn't worked out for him when the flat-out run begins, but fighting is still going on here between Jaden Elul and Ilan Gergi. It looks like there might be a pass for fourth in our near future.
Yeah, there could be, so keep an eye on that one up the climb, and there is actually going to be some bump drafting back there. Alul is being pushed around by Ilan Dimek, and it's more of what we would say is a strategy out there for those who are looking at this in, I would say, oval tech. So you look around at it and you're trying to give a little bump to increase the top end speed.
Yeah, little bump is certainly important. It's like your NASCAR super speedway style racing. You're trying to push the car ahead of you to build speed for the both of you and help to close that gap. It's not always done in road course racing, in sports car racing, but Spa is one of the places that you'll see it. Now we are into Fanye on board here with Jaden Elul as he is seeing Jake Samet get further and further away. Starting to see on my personal timing page Samet on the verge of getting more than a second ahead, and in iRacing it's about 1.5 seconds and less that you start to get the real benefit of the slipstream.
Yep, so he's starting to run into troubles, and that one is really going to be hurting. We know that Brandon Bonello is out of this race. Gorchi currently in 9th, then Kavai, Muscat, Merchieka, Dimek, Elul, Samet, Vella, and De Battista. These two trying to run away and making this the best that they possibly can in the early stages of this running. They know that as far as today goes, Reese, if they make it 1 versus 1, then 1 versus 5, I think they'll be looking at today and going 1 versus 1 is the much better prowess that they can have than having to deal with 4 other cars that want to go through and gain placement.
Yeah, for sure. The more drivers are involved in a battle with you, the harder it is for you to really assert yourself in that fight. If you can just bring it down to 1 versus 1, then there's plenty more of your racing brain that can be freed up in the midst of that battle. Aaron De Battista with some fantastic times so far. 2 minutes 17.6 on that lap, but Dean Vella is really keeping him honest, isn't he? On the way into Lacombe, you see them picking up the gravel. They are cutting as much of these corners as they can without getting a track limits violation.
Yeah, and so because they're not picking up the track limits, and they do have a few track limits to play with, they've got 15 before they find themselves in what is the toughest position possible. I think you'd be turning around and saying, look, I want to get anything I can out of this circuit. I know that I've got a few points to play with over the course of this run. It's 15 before drive-through, then every 10 after that. So I would be saying, look, 15 in 30 minutes, you've got 1 place a lap you can run off the track.
Yeah, that does seem like the math checks out there, but from what I can see, it doesn't appear that too many drivers have been having trouble with those off-track incident points. One driver that has is Sheldon Muscat down in P7. He has not set a valid lap time in the race yet. It appears that he's gotten off tracks on every single lap so far, so he might want to try and clean that up a little bit if he wants to move forward more, already down one position on his qualifying spot. Back to the battle between Jake Samet and Jaden Ellul. Looks like Jaden has managed to catch up a little bit. Took around a tenth of a second out of Jake Samet on the previous lap, and now he's well within slipstream range. He's making up that time into the chicane, but let's see where Samet is strongest. Who gets the best exit out of these slow corners?
Well, there's a convergence of different lines, I should say. Jake Samet took a very shallow line going into the final chicane. Jaden Ellul opened up there at La Source, trying to just get into the mirrors there, but ultimately it hasn't quite managed off the way that he needs to. There's a look at Jake Samet in the bottom right corner, calm as anything. He's used to racing though, Reese, in a Formula style seat, so that's where he's leant back and he's just having that ability to use the pedals as if he's led down. He's having to drive this very much like a GT car at the moment, where he is sat in very upright.
Yeah, driving position is incredibly important, honestly. It doesn't seem like it would make much of a difference, but it certainly does. And if you're used to that Formula style where you're lying down effectively in the car, it can be quite an adjustment when you get to a GT car with its more upright seating position. Little bit wide there for Jaden Ellul, and then Ilan Dimech is going to make up a little bit more speed on him here coming into Sector 2. But this battle just keeps getting tighter and tighter. It's now looking to be a four-way battle for third place, with Mikhail Murcheka not too far behind these guys, honestly. He's done well to keep up.
He has done, so Ilan Dimech is doing a really good job here. I think he's holding this on. Murcheka dropping 3/10 on that last lap won't be happy. De Battista, though, realises Dean Vella is right there, 3/10 of a second. He's not going to be too worried about that. He knows what he's got. He knows what he's capable of doing. And, oh, a little wide there from Dean. He's just going to have to calm it back a little bit, realise he's going to have to keep himself in line. And now I think he's going to understand, okay, I want to be in a place where I can just drive it on hard through the left-hander of Blanchimont, get myself back to this chicane and realise that I'm not outside of a second. It's still about half a second at the moment on gap, and so I will have time to drag this time back.
Yeah, still got 2/3 of the race remaining, and depending on when they cross the line, when the timer hits 0, they might get an extra lap versus what they were expecting. Checking back in with this battle for third, and you see how close they are at the moment. A bit of a tighter line on the way out of La Source there for Jaden Ellul in the leading of those teammate Mercedes there, but Mikhail Murcheka is probably struggling a little bit for that pace out of La Source. You've got a really long flat-out section afterwards, effectively half the lap here, to just see them driving away in front of you. Speaking of, looks like some snaking is going on there. Jake Samet trying to be defensive, but there's the move for Jaden.
Yeah, there it is, trying to get this one done, and ultimately for Jaden Ellul, he's got himself then the chance that's not quite worked out, and it opens the door for Ilan Dimech. Try to work that one on the inside there, Reese, to get that sorted. It opened up the door for Ilan, and down the hill, Ilan Dimech not in a position to get it done at Brussels.
Yeah, not quite. Trying to get the move done at Lecombe, you know, it is one of the most obvious overtaking opportunities on the lap, but you can defend the outside line quite easily into that corner. That's a lesson that will be learned for next time, and for the moment, it's resulted in quite a few car lengths gap between Samet and Ellul, and now Jaden in the number 21 is under a lot of pressure from Ilan. It's a very aggressive entry into Fagné, but the opportunity to pass not quite presenting itself. Checking back in with Christian Cavai here. 2:18.7 is his fastest lap so far. He's not quite keeping up with those ahead of them, but considering how close the battle is for third, if something happens in front of him, he's in prime position to take advantage.
Yes, so I think he's going to be looking around at this going, yes, I think I've got myself a great chance to attack. But for the moment, De Battista, he's not been able to reel that gap away. He went out to 0.6 of a second. But again, Dean Vella is back closer again. And so, again, I think Aaron De Battista realizes here as we are not a million miles away from the halfway point of this race, because we're going to be sitting here with about 18:35 on the clock remaining there. You can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side, right at the very top. I think Aaron De Battista realizes that Dean Vella is going to be here for the long haul. So it might not be a case of an if, it might be a when.
Yeah, I think it's a when for sure. Coming up through Rouge and Radillon, flat out in a GT3 car, flat out in most cars nowadays. It used to be the case that it was one of the most fearsome corners in motorsport, and it still is. You just need to be really precise with your inputs. It does seem like the slipstream's getting picked up again there for Dean Vella, but we'll have to wait and see what more can be done here through the twisties. I think aero push is going to be a bit of an issue for these drivers, especially in this third place battle. Having all of that aero disturbance over the front of the car. These may be GT3s. They may not be as dependent on aerodynamic grip as, say, an F1 car or a prototype, but they do still produce a good amount of downforce, and you need clear air on the front of the car for it to work.
Yeah, so you need that clean air. It's going to be a very important thing for you to just try and pull away. But I look at Jake Sammet right now. He's got all the clean air in the world, and what good's it doing him at the moment in third place? Because here comes the run from Jaden Alul. He'll try and go to the outside of Fania to try and make it happen, and suddenly Jake Sammet is being forced to find defensive line after defensive line. Jaden Alul is someone who is going from strength to strength with inside Intercom VMD Sim Sport, and I'm sure he will be looking around at this and going, okay, I want this move. I want this pass. I want to prove I can get to third place, that I'm on the level of Aaron and Dean. And Jake Sammet's going to turn around and go, nah, I want you to get by me.
Yeah, indeed. Look at the move here up to the back of his fellow Mercedes here. Defensive from Jake Sammet as Alul pulls alongside him here into the chicane, but he's gone too deep into it. Has to get back on track. Here's the opportunity for Ilan. Slight contact between our third place drivers, and the teammates end up making contact as a result. That's disastrous for Intercom VMD right there.
And Jaden Alul has lost the rear spoiler, so he's going to have no downforce for an entire lap by the looks of things, depending on where the pit lane is open and closed. I think on this endurance layout, he's going to be okay and he can dive straight into the pits, but that is a huge disaster for him, but he is going to be staying on for another lap. But that all comes down to the fact that Ilan Dimek is there on the outside. He's got to try and get the clearance as they both ran deep. They both outbroke each other, did the likes then of Sammet and Alul. So it then allowed Ilan Dimek to try and drive on the outside and thought there was clearance basically, Reese. And ultimately the responsibility you see there from Alul, he's merged too late.
Yeah, indeed, just a bit too late. That's what happens when there's converging lines at the exit of a corner. What that has resulted in is a massive run up for Mikhail Mertieka, up to fourth place now, and he is going to take point now, chasing Jake Sammet. We'll have to wait and see what kind of pace he has left. In fact, looking at the lap time chart, Mikhail was the fastest car on track last time by on a 2:18.0, so I gotta wonder if he's going to try and make the move on Jake Sammet soon. Meanwhile, we'll check in with our leaders. Aaron Di Battista still holding on to this one, but not by much. We are past the halfway point of the race now, and currently the faster ultimate race lap belongs to Di Battista, but Vella is close enough that Aaron really has to hit all of his marks.
Aaron De Battista now needs to focus because they've got the margin of 3 seconds back to Jake Sammet. And there's the first little look on the inside there from Dean Vella, just trying to show his nose, show that he is still a poignant and precious threat to the likes of Aaron De Battista. Doesn't give enough to make the move, but it's what we would go to the sim racer's handbook, or the racer's handbook, so to speak, Reese, and say you want to make your car as wide as possible to try and make sure you look like you are absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Moving around down the straights, not blocking. That is a slightly different set of circumstances there. But making sure that you're running that tighter line into the corners, just blocking the view of the driver chasing. And then when you accelerate out of corners, trying to cover them off. Also parking at the apex as well. That's one thing that you can do. Just slowing down a little bit more in the mid-corner to force your rival to back off where they'd be expecting to pick up the power. These two aren't quite close enough for us to see that just yet, but it's only a matter of time before we do see it.
Right, so let's put ourselves into position right now, because we are nearing the final third of this race. Aaron De Battista and Dean Vella have the gap. Suddenly for 4th and 5th positions right now. It is turning into Murcieka versus Ilan Dimek. So that's making a difference. Jaden Alul is down in the pit lane right now, so his damage was too much, and so ultimately he's had to drive that one back in, and he realizes he is right behind the 8 ball now for the rest of this championship. So he will look around at Mika Murcieka here in 4th place, and this will be huge for Project Aversio. They've got cars 3rd and 4th now at this moment in time, and Ilan Dimek is definitely going to want to get through, and he's going to want to get through like yesterday.
For sure. Managed to walk away from the contact with Jaden Alul with minimal damage to his car, did Ilan. And now he's really chasing down Mikhail, isn't he? On the way into Blanchimont. We'll find our way through. Let's have a look into the final big braking zone of this circuit. That's defensive from Mikhail, and that's a big dive up the inside there, and he's almost going to complete the move, Jake.
Almost doesn't get it done, though. You're going to have to get it slowed up, and Ilan Dimek didn't. So that was going to be huge in terms of how he wants to win the battle of the brakes. Mikhail knows exactly where he wants to place the car. He knows where he finds the apex, and if Ilan wants to go around the outside, you can't be so gung-ho about it. And you can see him there in the bottom right. He really runs with his emotions, does Ilan Dimek. He's got to just calm himself down, knows that he's got to chase this back, and I'm sure he will have the opportunity to go at it again between now and the end of this race.
Yeah, he certainly will. Our leaders are getting closer and closer. There's the overspeed from Dean Vella. Aaron De Battista doing exactly what I was talking about before there. Tighter line into the corner, parking it on the apex, and it looks like Dean Vella doesn't have much he can do to combat that. It's going to have to be a big dive somewhere, and he's having a look here at Bruxelles, an incredible downhill corner, this one, but it also means that you get understeer if you enter it a bit too hot, and I think we just saw that from Dean. He's falling back a little bit now from his leading teammate.
So, right, let's put ourselves into this scenario right now with Dean Vella. If I was Dean Vella, Reese, what am I looking at in order to make these overtakes? Am I thinking about just waiting till the final minutes to go and make this move? Or am I wanting to get aggressive now, knowing I've got a gap and knowing I want to unsettle the 26 in front?
If I were in Dean's position, and I very rarely am, this is the state of play at the moment. Our two leaders are matched crazy close on pace. The last laps that they set were a mere 0.02 of a second apart. So I think if I'm in Dean Vella's position, I am waiting for that last possible opportunity to make the move, because I don't want to give Aaron De Battista any chance to fight back at me. Building up the run out of Stavolo, trying to make the move at the chicane, and then holding him off through La Source. That's what I would do, but we'll have to wait and see how that works out.
Well, Dean Vella's got a really good chance of hoping that that move can happen, but for the moment, it's not quite forming at this moment. Gets good drive out of La Source, but again, there's about a 2.5 car length gap that they're going to have to deal with. Samet's managed to pull his margin over Merciek and Dimek, so that's going to now bring Ilan Dimek back in. We said that Ilan Dimek was going to get another chance, and now here's going to be that opportunity climbing up the hill. He's really getting that launched in a straight line. He's a couple kilometers an hour quicker. Now it's going to pull to the left-hand side, up the Kemmel straight, looking for the move. There's also a look. Vella's not going to get the move done, and so now here comes the chance. Ilan Dimek to the outside, and can he get it on a dime? Yes, he can.
Lovely move there from Dimek. Fantastic stuff. Now he's back up into 4th place and he can try and chase down Jake Samet. Again, it's a case of the drivers being incredibly closely matched. So with 8.5 minutes still remaining in the session, I think there is enough time to bring that gap down somewhat. But I'm not sure if Ilan necessarily has the pace to do it right now. He's still getting harassed by Mikhail Mercieka here, especially coming out of Bruxelles and Speaker's Corners, coming into Pouon here, this beautiful double left-hander. There's Mikhail there, and I mean, you look at his features on the camera feed, he is not betraying any emotion at all, and I often find that the best drivers, you can barely read their faces at all when they're on the camera feed.
No, they are stonewall, they are concentrating, and they know what the job at hand is. And so Aaron De Battista has a little look across at him at the moment. So maybe even trying to look down the rigs over to Dean Vella, try and see what his mindset is. It's one of the things when you're racing in land, you get a unique opportunity to see what everyone else is looking at and how they're feeling.
Yeah, certainly you do. I love having camera feeds up on these sim racing streams. It gives us an extra eye into what the drivers are going through. A little hat adjustment for our leader, Aaron Di Battista. And you would have seen a couple of times, just have a look at how he's looking through La Source there. He's obviously running triples, which means that you need to be looking into the corner in order to spot your line out of it. But he's also flicking his eyes up occasionally. That would be him checking the virtual mirror and just checking how close Dean Vella is, planning his next defense, which is probably going to be coming in a few moments.
Look at the differences in their fastest laps, because there's only 12 thousandths of a second between them. Dean Vella closing in. He's not close enough. He moves to the outside. So now he's going to have to try and lunge late on the brakes. He doesn't get there. Now he's trying to open up the corners here. Aaron De Battista's a little bit in no man's land, and he covers the line. They're going in through the left before running up to Malmedy corner. They are really playing with these marks, and Dean Vella, who has raced against Aaron De Battista many a time before, is now realizing here that he is going to push to every element of what is fair to really put Dean Vella in a position where he can't make the pass. They are down under 6 minutes to go, and so they realize at this point there's about 3 laps left to go and give themselves everything they can, and De Battista's having to defend it.
My timing is telling me 2 laps to go when they cross the line next. So that gives you a bit of an eye into the intensity of this fight and how much they have left to give. Entry into Stavilo. Picking up the power very nicely is Dean Vella, but a little bit of understeer through the corner afterwards, being careful not to put a wheel into the gravel trap lest you lose speed down the straight. Well, the slipstream will get picked up again. This is a fantastic fight between these two, but it looks like the big action zone for them really is that braking zone off the Kemmel Straight into Lacombe. Still incredibly close into the chicane. Who lines it up best? Looks like, maybe a little bit of a better apex there from Dean Vella, and he's taken a bit more curb on the way out of the chicane as well. He's trying everything he can to widen the racetrack as much as he can.
So I look at Aaron De Battista. I think I'm going to have to be very very cautious as far as this goes. It is going to be close, whether it's going to be 2 or 3 laps to go. They're going to cross the line with 4:33 on the clock, doing a 2:18 lap time. So I think it's going to be by about 3 seconds here, just 2 laps to go rather than 3. So for the moment, Dean Vella realizes with the way they've gone, they've got less time to work with. The low fuel warning is there for him as well. So the car is trimmed out as light as possible now. So they can really start attacking here, really start throwing the car. They don't have as much downforce to work with, and that wiggle over the gravel traps that have been recently installed here at Spa are going to make a huge amount of difference. Dean Vella now sees that gap extend by an extra car length and a half.
It's a blind entry into Malmedy coming out of Lacombe, so it's often quite difficult to put yourself on the optimal entry trajectory for that corner. That little wiggle probably cost Dean Vella a chance at trying to go for the move on this lap, but he's crucially still close enough to get the slipstream off Aaron De Battista, who has led this race from start to finish. Keeping third, Jake Sammet. He's been minding his own business over the course of this race. He hasn't been pressuring the leaders all that much, but he has been head and shoulders above the pace of everyone behind them, especially when they started battling early on in the race. And I think the incident between Jaden Elul and Ilan Dimek has really benefited him. All he's had to do is focus on hitting his marks, and he's almost guaranteed a podium if he keeps it together.
Yeah, so he's got to try and keep this together. He's got to try and give himself everything that he possibly can. I think he realizes just how important today is. And even if you're back there in 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place, there is a chance that you're looking at these points and you're going, okay, I have got to try and just pick up what I can now, because there will be rounds later on in the season that'll be a lot more helpful. So that's what you look at here with Ilan Dimek, and you say that's going to be the big difference for him. He knows he's picking up good points in the early stages, and so it's going to be a case now of 1 lap left and hold your ground. Aaron De Battista then and Dean Vella are now going to have this scrap, and Dean Vella has been waiting to uncork this run here through Radion. Now onto the Kemmel Straight. He's charging that gap down. It's gone from 3 car lengths to 2, from 2 car lengths to 1, but the braking zone's coming up. He's going to have to go to the outside to go and get this to work here, and he's trying to work the Oracle on the outside. It's not there. It's Dean Vella losing out then that chance. It was the best opportunity against Aaron De Battista. De Battista slightly slow though out to Malmedy. Offers up a chance to lunge to the inside at Brussels corner, but it is a long looping downhill right-hander. You're not going to get the run, and it's not going to be enough at this moment in time to get it sorted. Now you're going to have to wait for that final chicane or even last source to get it done, because this middle sector is all about patience and find it. You see back there as well, Mika Merchieka thinking about how do I get back over Ilan Dimek Girshi, his personal best on the last lap. But now again comes Dean Vella, and again he looks to that inside, trying to get it done at Fania. Again, unmoved is Aaron De Battista. You're not close enough to fall side by side to me, Sunshine. You're going to have to keep working harder than that. Vella working now into Campus Corner, knowing that Stavolo is next up, and this is where the next great run is needed, and he pushes to the absolute nth degree over the curb of Paul Frere. A lovely look on the right-hand side at the work that has to be done here from Dean Vella as he's trying to chase this down, trying to take wider lines, bigger lines, more powerful lines to go through. But Aaron De Battista seems to have the answers to the test paper. Again, that gap will try and close. This is going to have to come from late here from Dean. He locks up, and just like that, Aaron De Battista only finds himself 1 corner away from the sanctum that he needs. He passes the Grand Prix pits on the right-hand side, and now only the last source hairpin remains in what has been a wonderful race between them. 5 seconds remain on the clock. Checkered flag will come out. There's Aaron De Battista's day to start the season off. He gets a big fist pump and says, "Mine! I am championship leader after round 1."
That was tough as nails from Aaron De Battista. He was under pressure the whole time there from Dean Vella, and I think sometimes it got a little bit closer than he would have liked. A couple of times he went deep into those corners on the last lap, and that gave Vella a little run, but it wasn't quite enough. De Battista delivered when it mattered. Brilliant podium for Jake Sammet as well. As I said, just minding his own business, taking care of business, and he is rewarded with a podium in round one.
Yeah, so that gives you a real sense of what it means between two drivers of the same team who are going out there. And you turn around and say, between Dean Vella and Aaron De Battista, could that be the handing of the torch moment?
Yeah, got to wonder if that is indeed the case, but we can't forget this is only the first round of the championship, so there's still plenty of races left to decide all of that. All up, I think the Intercom VMD team having an excellent result, despite that coming together between Elul and Dimek, but currently flying in formation their team cars, the trio that managed to get themselves into the top 5. Fantastic.
3 cars in the top 5 for a team that, believe it or not, met the Maltese Prime Minister in the last couple of weeks, gave him one of their jerseys, and basically said, look, we want to have as much support as possible for Intercom VMD SimSport. And they have delivered fantastically in this race. Confirmation of result then. 30 minutes, 1 second, and it is Aaron De Battista's who gets it done as there's a little bit of a wreck as they all look to try and get that stopped. Dean Vella just 0.4 of a second behind in second. It's still a really good account to start his season. It's then Jake Sammet in third and Mikael Mercieka in fourth for Project Aversio. And then in 5th position, it'll be Ilan Dimek. That move did change on the final lap of the race. Sheldon Muscat could only watch on from 6th position, and that just led to Christian Kavai and Neil Gorchi, who found their finishes. Jaden Alul 1 lap down with a damage and a non-starter in Brandon Bonello. Now, the key here, Reese, in that race was to dominate from the front. Just know that you're not going to break away, but keep that cadence up.
Yeah, for sure. The slipstream really defined the action today, didn't it, in the GT3s? I can't wait to see how it works out for the Formula 4s later on. Don't forget that there's more than one driver in this series that's going to be racing in both of those championships. So any pointers that they can take from this race, they'll certainly carry through to the one later on. But Aaron De Battista nailing everything there. You know, and I know from experience, I'm sure you do as well, it's very difficult for the lead driver in such a slipstream heavy race to really maintain that lead when he's getting harassed all the time. So that just makes Aaron's achievement even more impressive.
It really does. And further to that point, Reese, if you are having to do the double, that's coming up in about just under 4 hours' time. So you're going from this position of it's a long day at the office. You've had to put the time and effort into 2 different cars, into 2 different tracks to put yourself at the level that says, right, I want to go forward and I want to be the best sim racer possible in Malta. So how do you balance the practice time? And further to that, how do you get yourself prepared for a long day of sim racing where you've got a fair bit of downtime coming up?
Yeah, I think the big thing I would take away is use that downtime effectively. Obviously, in the lead up to this event, the drivers would have been putting in many hours of practice in both cars, but your final race preparation for the Formula 4 race coming up a bit later is what should take priority now. The GT3 race, that's done, and we won't be racing in them again for another week or 2. It's F4 time now, so get in the sim now. Get in that practice session and try your best to get used to what is fundamentally a very different car than the Mercedes we just saw.
Now, I do believe we have Aaron De Battista ready for interview. So hopefully we can pull him up on screen or however it's going to work for us here and say, right, now here is the chance to say how amazing of a run it was. Because Aaron, as far as today has been, running from the front, getting the best time of qualifying, getting the best lap of the race, and having to fend off in a last lap battle, that is probably the most fulfilling sim racing race you've had. And that's not worked. So, Reese, I would say he's had a really fulfilling race.
I think so indeed. Sorry. Man of few words. I think I just heard someone else come through.
Aaron, do you have a copy, buddy?
Apparently not. But yeah, I mean, just to recap, just a crazy drive from Aaron De Battista. It's more than impressive that he was able to nab pole position in that session, and to be able to hold off the likes of Dean Vella for 30 minutes straight. I mean, you know, that's not nothing.
No, it very much isn't. So we'll just try one more time before we will head to close if this doesn't work. Aaron, do we hear you, buddy? To that element, I'm going to say no. But what an incredible run. Yeah. We can hear you now. Right, Aaron, what a great day at the office today. Well, it was Justin. It was our producer. Okay, right. That will pretty much be that for here for the first round of GT3. So what we're going to now look at doing is just say, right, okay, we're going to have a really good run coming up for the next stage in round 2 of the championship at Imola. There is going to be some more amazing action coming later on, which comes to our action in the Formula 4s, which I'm sure is going to be an absolute treat when we get the open wheelers out and we say this is how aggressive we are going to be in terms of our racing action. We're going to stay on the air for a moment, though, because we're going to look to try and say, wow, this is going to be an amazing action that we've had. But Reese, as far as Spa has offered, I don't think we saw anyone go overboard, over the top. It's the sort of circuit that offers the big overtake, but we only had one real flashpoint, which was Jaden Alul, who I thought was desperately unlucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that the somewhat limited field size does play a part in that, but also I think just the closeness of the pace here. You know, these drivers had to really qualify to get into this championship in the first place, and you don't qualify unless you have crazy pace. The amount of practice that these guys have been putting in as well is insane. You know, I'm constantly marveling at the amount of time that pro sim racing teams put into preparing for events. So the closeness of the pace, it becomes that little bit more difficult to really get the move done. You're right, though. It was interesting to see we only had one big incident. To be honest with you, I did expect more, but we do still have that second race coming up later with much more fragile Formula cars. So I think we are going to see a couple other flashpoints, as you say there.
And further to that, the question is now going to be, how do they respond, Reese, going to Imola? Very different in terms of a circuit to Spa, very much a lot tighter, a lot grittier of a circuit, and one of those tracks where I don't think you're ever switched off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Imola, it does have a long flat-out section down the start-finish straight, but it is full of chicanes, full of big curbs to use. I think the GT3s are going to handle that slightly better than the F4s, but it's going to be a much tighter affair, as you say. Not as clear on the overtaking opportunities and the slipstreaming as at Spa, and it's also a bit of a narrower track in places as well. So the drivers are going to have to use a bit more of their racing brain when we head over to Italy.
Yeah, they very much are. So they're going to have to be very switched on with that. But let's talk about some drivers who maybe have gone under the radar today who can make that good progress. And I was very impressed with Mikael Murcieka over the course of the race. I think he's someone who just has to build into a series, build into a car. But when you gain 3 places in a race like this and you're making moves on the final lap, I think you're turning around and saying, yes, I am going to be in a position where I do not want to be facing him if I am anybody else in this field.
Yeah, certainly. It was a solid drive from Mikael Murcieka, and I think what really defined his race was his ability to stay out of trouble. Same for Jake Sammet as well. Both of them managed to work themselves into a lovely result just by giving each other a little bit more space, not getting into it too hard with other cars, and being careful to stay out of it when an incident happened around them. I think that's what's really going to grant you the results that you deserve when you get to the end of this championship. Racing isn't always about aggression. It's a big part of it, but being careful and measuring that aggression is the next big thing.
Yeah, and we'll be seeing how important that measured aggression is going to be over the course of this season, because you look at circuits like Watkins Glen on the calendar, the Red Bull Ring, rounds 3, round 4, they are the quintessential point and squirt style circuits where you've got massive lots of slipstreaming, and you get that real sense of heavy braking zone, big lunges. It's got that sort of feel to it where if you are going to see championships open up, it's going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. A great schedule that we have here. And, you know, it's full of fantastic circuits from all around the world, isn't it? And tracks that all of the drivers will know very well. You know, these guys aren't new to sim racing. Some of them have been at it only for a couple of years or so. But I think the vast majority of them will have known all of these circuits from various racing games over the years, obsessively watching motorsport, as I'm sure almost all of us have over time. And championship implications are certainly dependent on the circuit that you're racing at that time.
And also importantly in this regard, how critical it is that this is more than just your average sim racing championship. This is a nationally organized championship to be the national champion of your country, and to have this and the infrastructure that's around it is absolutely incredible. The amount of people that will get who are standing on song and on ceremony is absolutely incredible. Your final thoughts from the opening round of the championship here from Spa Race.
Yeah, my final thoughts are we are setting up for a fantastic championship with the sheer equality of the pace amongst the drivers at the front, but big question marks as well. What could Brandon Bonello have done? Remember, he spent the vast majority of the race in pit lane. What about Jaden Elul? He had his incident with Ilan Dimek coming out of the chicane. We didn't get to see what he was truly capable of. I'm certainly hoping that come next round we see what those drivers can really do and how close and numerous this championship fight's going to be.
Absolutely. So some wonderful action that has been brought to you on TVM Sport and here with us on YouTube. We've got some incredible action coming up in about 3 hours and 45 minutes. So you're going to want to stay tuned and keep with us for that racing action that'll be coming up as the F4s start their season. But as far as the GT3 National Championship is concerned, it is all about Aaron DeBattista and Dean Vella. They were the two that were head and shoulders today, and while Dean Vella had his chances, had his looks, there was nothing really that was perfect for him that could get him the job for. Iron tight, I should say, was the run from Aaron DeBattista, and he will know that he's got championship lead heading to Imola and round 2 of the championship.